All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And tonight I am joined by our engineering team. We're going to be going over some updates to the CodeHS IDE. So with me tonight are Sar, Danielle, and John, and they are going to be leading us through all of the new updates that have come out just within the last couple of weeks. So we're really excited because this is really going to change maybe the way that your students code within the coding environment. And also you'll have some additional features that have been added recently. So my name is Linda Hahn. I am a PD specialist here at CodeHS, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to John, Sar, and Danielle here in just a moment. But before we do that, at the bottom, you're going to see there is couple of buttons. You have a chat button and a Q&A button. And so the chat will default to panelists and hosts only, but if you'd like, you can always toggle over to everyone so everyone can see any questions or comments that you have. In fact, if you want to toggle over to the chat right now, let us know where you're joining us from and what you're teaching this year. That would be great. So you can find that chat button there. Make sure you use the drop down though to push that comment out to both as well, really to everybody instead of just hosts. At the bottom, you also have a Q&A button, and this is a great way for us to actually be able to interact with you and push out questions or questions and answers that you may have. So it says chat is disabled. Okay, I'll take a look at that in just a minute. All right. And the Q&A button is where you'll be able to put your questions. We will answer those questions live, and also ensure that as you are kind of coming up with some ideas of some things that you may want to see, go ahead and let us know in that Q&A as well. All right. Okay, looks like everybody's in there. Let's see. Thank you for joining us, Nathan. Rudolph, excellent. Nice to see everybody. All right, new CTAE teacher in York High School. All right. So let's take a look at slide 2 real quick. John? Yeah, so that Q&A button is a really great place if you do have specific questions. And thank you, Jessica, for already helping us out. We are going to go ahead and answer any questions that you drop in there as we are presenting. Let's go ahead and go over to slide 3. And if you don't have a CodeHS account, we want to go ahead and give you the opportunity to go ahead and get signed up. If you go to codehs.com/sign up, you're going to see 2 pathways, student and teacher. Make sure you choose teacher, and we'll be able to get you set up as a teacher tonight. Thank you again for joining us, and we're really, really excited to go ahead and show you these features. So I'm going to turn it over to John.
Great. Thank you so much, Linda. Yeah, like it was said, my name is John, and I'm here with Danielle and Sar as well, other engineers on the team. I've been at CodeHS for quite a while now, almost 8 years. So yeah, it's been really fun, and I love building things for teachers. So hopefully you all enjoy what we have here for you today. To start out, we're going to do a poll just to get a sense of what programming languages people are going to be teaching or have been teaching in previous years or the upcoming year. And that can help me maybe guide the demos a little bit as well. So I'm going to launch this poll for everyone. Should see it on your screen. If you don't, there's a little like polls section at the bottom of the options.
A lot of Python this year, John.
Yeah, that's good to see. Python was my first language that I learned, so I have a soft spot in my heart for it. Great. Okay. Yeah, I was hoping to see a nice range. This is great because I have examples from each for us. I am curious what the other is. Maybe we can chat about that later. But great. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for participating. I like to see JavaScript, Python, Java. It looks like we have people from all categories, so that's going to be great. I'm going to have little demos for each of those. Okay. So great. All right. I think I can share the results. Okay, great. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to just jump into the demos. The slides are going to be available. So if you wanted a kind of more comprehensive reading way to examine all of the new features, you can take a look at the slides, but we're just going to jump into the demos because there's a lot to show. And yeah, let's just get started. So what we're going to start with, Sar is going to take the lead on the very first demo. It's probably one of the most exciting features that we've been working on, which is some improvements to collaboration. That's real-time collaboration. So I'm going to hand it off to Sar, and you can begin with that.
All right, thank you, John. So yeah, like everybody, or like Linda and John have said, I'm Sar. I'm an engineer here at CodeHS, and I'll keep my intro short because we have a lot of stuff to show you. But let me just start sharing my screen. And I'm happy to see that we have so many Pythons because I actually chose a Python. Let me see. Are you seeing this Python program over here called Async Collab? Okay, perfect. So I chose this program to demo this really quick, and I'm just going to show this off because it's really cool. And this is actually a program my brother made, which is just the game of life. So this is just a Sandbox program in our Sandbox editor. And what I'm here to demo today is Async Collaboration. So we've had this collaboration mode in the past. We've had this feature for a while now. And we've had a lot of requests for teachers who wanted to, and students who wanted to work on programs and collaborate on them asynchronously. And so we've made some improvements to this. So right here in the editor on the left, there's this new Collaborate tab. And if I head over there right now, you can see that collaboration is currently disabled for this program. And so right now I'm just working on this program by myself. But if I wanted to start collaborating on it, I can start and just enable collaboration here. And now this will put me into collaborate mode. And now this program is now in this collaborate mode. And so you can see I have my little avatar here. The tab here has changed a little bit. I have this link on the left, the top left over here. And if I click on this box, it will copy the collaborate link to my clipboard. And then I have this list of people that are currently collaborating on the program. So now I'm going to head over to the chat, and I'm going to paste this link into chat. And now people with CodeHS accounts can now join this link, and you'll actually be able to collaborate on this program with me. And you can see people are joining, and the collaborate list is updating as people join, and you'll be able to collaborate on this program with me live. And you can go ahead and type in the editor if you want. But yeah, this is our collaborate mode, which lets you collaborate on a program in real time. And the biggest difference, or the biggest change that we've made, the biggest improvement, is that now this will work asynchronously. And so once I enable collaboration, I can go ahead and just leave this program. I'm just going to close this. I'll move this over here. And now I don't have the program open anymore, but everyone should be able to collaborate on this. And now I'm going to rejoin, and we should see I'm back in the room. So I kind of left there for a second and I've rejoined, but you can see that while I'm not in the room, I'm still able, or everyone else is still able to collaborate. You can collaborate asynchronously even when the owner is not there. So that's kind of the limitation that was lifted with these improvements, is that you can now collaborate on a program without the collaborator in the room. So once you have collaboration enabled for a program, it's going to be enabled for everyone who has the link from that point on. So now if you have collaboration enabled for a program and you decide, okay, now I don't want people to be able to collaborate on this program anymore, then what you can do is you can go ahead and click this disable collaboration button at the bottom left here. So I'm going to click this button in a second, and you'll see that it's going to kick everybody out from this collaborate session. It's going to prevent you from collaborating anymore. So I've decided I don't want to collaborate anymore. It's going to show me this modal just to confirm. I'm going to hit disable, and now it's going to disable it for everyone. And now I'm not collaborating on it anymore. And so you can see I'm back to kind of the normal state of the editor where I'm not collaborating. And if I go back to the tab, it's disabled for this program. One more thing is when collaboration is disabled, if you've already enabled it in the past, all of the collaborators for the program are kind of saved on it. And so people, if I go ahead and enable collaboration again, people who have the link that I sent out before will still be able to come and collaborate on this program once I re-enable it. But I can go ahead and reset the settings, and this will kind of kick out all of the collaborators that were there before. And now when I re-enable collaboration one more time, it's going to be a new, it's going to give me a new link. So the old collaborate link isn't going to work anymore. And now you can see I'm just by myself and I have a new link that I can share out. But yeah, I think that covers the basics of the async collaboration mode, and I can answer any more questions in the Q&A, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to John so he can show you some of the more updates we have in our IDE.
Great, thank you, Sar. Yeah, and
let me just figure how to stop sharing my screen.
No worries.
Oh, there we go.
But yeah, just to highlight something that Sar said that may have not necessarily been clear is that this improvement is making our collaboration mode, our real-time collaboration mode, kind of work more similar to how you would expect Google Docs to work, where, you know, the person who maybe created that Google Doc doesn't necessarily need to be present in order for other people to collaborate on it. And that's a pretty big improvement because I think that's how people maybe expected it to work for a long time. And now it does work in that fashion. So thank you, Sar. Also, Sar was the one who built this. So thank you specifically, Sar. Cool. So let's continue. And we can see some more stuff. So here's just a rough list of some of the things that have been updated, okay? And we may get to cover all of the demos for them, but I just wanted to kind of give you a visual way to see what it is that we may be talking about today. So we just saw the asynchronous collaboration from SAR, okay? But there's a bunch more to talk about. For example, the file tabs, okay? File bar tabs, which is new. We also have support for a new editor. It's called Monaco Editor, which has a bunch of nice features, including some auto completion, which is really nice in a lot of different settings. We also have some new, easier ways to configure how the IDE displays things. So yeah, more on that soon. Code history navigation. This is a little quality of life improvement, specifically for I think often for teachers who are maybe looking through the history of their students' programs, but it's also available to students if they find that useful. Importing zip files. This is great, especially if you're bringing some program out from, you know, something that you've coded on a different website or just on your computer and you want to run it on CodeHS. Now it's a little bit easier to do so. And then, yeah, the last thing we're going to cover, which is really interesting, I think, is this way for teachers to push edits to their students' programs, which has a wide range of benefits and some interesting new features to HTML that come from that as well. So that's kind of an overview of the things that we're going to be talking about. I might not cover them exactly in this order, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what is to come. Okay. Yeah, and just as a reminder, if there's any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to just write it in the Q&A section, okay? So what I'm going to look at first is actually something which I didn't include on this list, is some improvements to infinite loop detection or prevention for JavaScript programs, specifically JavaScript programs. I did see there were a couple JavaScript teachers, so I wanted to start with that, something that I'm pretty excited about. So let's jump over to the editor, and pretty much for the remainder of this video, we're going to be taking a look at the demos in the editor. Okay, so what I have here is a simple JavaScript program, kind of basic hello world program. I can run it and it works as we might expect. Okay, and so CodeHS has had things to help with infinite loops. And infinite loops are particularly annoying in JavaScript because as anyone who has taught JavaScript in the browser knows, if the student or even yourself writes an infinite loop, it will kind of crash the browser or lock the browser. And this happens in a lot of different settings, okay? So what we've had is we've had a way to turn on something which is called Stopify. It's this cool software that people out in the world made, and it's available free online, and CodeHS is now using it to help with the infinite loop prevention, okay? So what I can show is, let me just make sure it's on. Great. So what I can show is if I actually put in an infinite loop here, typically without this, which is why I'm not demoing it with not turned on, is if I ran this program, it would actually lock up this browser tab and I would have to close out this tab. But when you have Stopify on, you're actually able to run programs that have an infinite loop. This has a couple interesting benefits. One is that if the student accidentally writes an infinite loop, their program will run and they'll kind of notice that something is wrong. But also it kind of opens up a different way to program and a different way to think about how loops work, which is a little bit more consistent, I would say, with how people are familiar in other programming languages. So that's kind of a nice little improvement there. In particular, this feature works primarily in Sandbox. And so let me demo kind of how you can turn this on as a new default. Okay, so here I have the CodeHS Sandbox open, all right? And up in the right corner, you can click this IDE settings button. And there's a bunch of settings in here, okay? But the one that we're looking for here is this use Stopify by default, okay? And so if you toggle this on, anytime Stopify is available for JavaScript programs, it's going to use that by default now, okay? And in the future, we may make this a setting where teachers can more easily turn this on for their students. But for the time being, this is available as a Sandbox option. And we're kind of experimenting with whether or not we want to roll it out as the default for all courses, okay? Great. So let's move on to another demo. And so what we're going to take a look at next is some auto formatting, which is also available just in JavaScript right now. And while we're there, we can take a look at some Monaco improvements as well. All right, great. So what I have here is another JavaScript program. This one may be familiar to some who have taught the JavaScript course. It's actually the breakout kind of capstone project. All right, and if you're familiar with it, but even if you're not, it's quite a long program, right? In this case, it's about 200 lines long. And so once programs start getting this long, it's useful to have kind of a more advanced IDE experience, okay? And that includes things like auto completion or auto formatting, okay? And so we have added both of those features, not necessarily as the default, but things that you can use if you decide that's something that you want, okay? So what I'm going to start with is the auto formatting, which is one of my favorite features that I actually use when I code professionally. I really can't live without it. So inside the editor settings, so if you click this gear right here, and if you scroll down inside the editor section, there's now a auto format toggle, which you can turn on. And it's only available for JavaScript right now, but we have plans to add it to other languages. And when you turn this on, it will automatically format your code in a rather opinionated way, which you may disagree with, but right now it is a non-configurable auto formatting, but it looks pretty good. And I actually use it quite often. But to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to kind of destroy the formatting of this particular program and just remove all proper indentation, okay? And then if I go in and I click save, what you're going to see is everything is fixed. Okay, everything is fixed, which is really, really nice. Okay, and of course that was a contrived example of a really, really poorly formatted program, but you could imagine simple situations or kind of smaller situations where you just have one function which is indented improperly, and if you save, it fixes it automatically. Okay, and this is really nice. And yeah, like I said, I use this myself quite often. Okay, great. And so yeah, continuing with what we were thinking about, okay, once our programs start getting big, we kind of need these more advanced IDE features. So another one that I want to show is some improvements we've made to auto completion. And so how you can use this, okay, is once again inside the settings. All right, you see here there's an editor option, and so the default right now is this. It's called Ace Editor. Doesn't really matter what that means, but what is important is that if you set it to Monaco, okay, if you set it to Monaco, it will actually change how the IDE looks a little bit, and it adds a number of features. Okay, and like I stated, this is not the default at this time. We're considering moving things in this direction, but it's not the default at this time. Okay, so what do we get once we turn Monaco on? Well, in addition to things just looking slightly different with the coloring, right? I think the main feature that people really like is the auto completion. Okay, so as you can see in this program, we have tons of constants, right? We have like the paddle width, paddle height, paddle offset, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so when you have Monaco on, the IDE is actually aware of all of the variables and all of the constants or all of the functions that you have defined within your program, and it can actually help you in completing things. So if I start typing in here, you can see, oh, do you mean paddle height, offset, width, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and so this is really nice, especially as I was saying, once your programs start getting really large. Some would say this is kind of a necessary feature. Okay, this is kind of a necessary feature, and so now this is made available to you through the Monaco editor. And just to kind of show you again how you can get there, it's in this settings, and then you can turn it on right here. Okay, great. All right, so what we're going to take a look at next is we're going to shift gears a little bit and move over to Python. Okay, and yeah, if there's any questions that I should maybe take during the demos, let me know, because we can maybe add some notes in there and I can try to help out. But what I'm going to do next is we're going to go to Python. Okay, great. So I know we had a lot of Python teachers, so hopefully this is interesting. This demo isn't necessarily specific to Python, but it is going to show a cool thing of Python that maybe you weren't aware of. Great. So once again, we're starting out here with just a very simple program, a little hello world program in Python 3. Okay. And so as you can see, I can run it and things work as expected. Okay. But what I wanted to show here now is the new Ide Layout feature, which is available not just in the sandbox, but pretty much everywhere on the site anytime you are inside the IDE. Okay, and so if you look down here in the bottom left corner, hopefully nothing's covering it. Maybe the chat's covering or something, but you'll see down in the bottom left corner, it says layout. Okay, and I'm just hovering over it. And if I click this, what it does is it shows me what panels of the IDE I currently have toggled or displayed. Okay, and so for example, say I'm not interested in the left panel at this time, I could turn it off. Okay, and yes, you could have done that already just by clicking the Files tab. However, this gives you kind of a nice single place to configure all of the elements or layout elements of the IDE. Okay, great. So one thing you may notice here, though, is that the graphics output is toggled off. Okay, and so I think this is a really interesting part of this IDE layout feature, is that it makes it more easy to change your program to support maybe different features that you didn't originally turn on when you created it in the sandbox. Okay, so what I can do here is I can toggle the graphics output. All right, and now this is both a Python program that can have textual output, right, which is, as we can see here, just printing hello world. But then also, if I added some graphical stuff, then it will also display that as well. Okay, and so I've prepared a small little, it's actually the sample program in the sandbox, but a small little Pygame activity here, which I can get to, and I will display this now. And so now I can run this program, and just within the same IDE, I didn't have to like open up a new tab, make a new sandbox program. I'm able to turn on the graphics display in a pretty easy way. Okay, and so in addition to just being able to turn on the graphics display or turn it off and these types of things, okay, this feature is also really nice in situations where you may want to present your program. Maybe it's a student doing a presentation for a project they made, or maybe it's you, the teacher, and you're trying to demonstrate some code in the IDE, right? So what you can do is you can actually use these little shortcut buttons down here. And so, for example, I can say full screen the code, and it really easily just full screens the code and makes it easier to display in the way that you desire, okay? And additionally, we could also full screen the graphics output, right? So this is more tuned to if you're trying to just demonstrate the result of the program, right? And you don't care about the actual code itself, okay? And so this layout functionality makes it a lot easier to kind of just toggle things on and off and display how it is that you want to display things. Great. So that is the IDE layout feature. Great. All right, so what we're going to do next is do some Java stuff. So if anyone has any questions before I move on, I can answer those. Otherwise, we're going to move to Java. All right. So everything we've seen so far has been mostly single file programs. I think, yeah, all single file programs. But anyone who's taught Java knows that most programs pretty quickly become multi-file programs. Yeah, almost certainly. Okay, and so one thing that, and let me go back to the sandbox for this. And so we acknowledge that, and we also know that some teachers have maybe existing activities on their computer that they want students to be able to import into the sandbox and run things on their own. And it's kind of annoying to have to copy paste stuff. Yeah, it's not great. So what we've added, okay, is a way to be able to import specifically zip files into the sandbox, okay? And there's other ways to import things, but what I'm going to demonstrate here is specifically importing into the sandbox, okay? And I thought Java would be a great way to show this because, yeah, things are often more than one file. So what you can do here in the sandbox is when you're going to create a program, there's this little drop down here, okay? And I can say upload from zip. Okay, so I can go ahead and click that and then upload something from my computer. And here I have this program, Fun with Solids, which is from the course. But you can think of this as something that you created, right? And you want your students to use, or maybe something they've created and they want to import into CodeHS. And so I can go ahead and say open, and then I can choose what type of program it is. In this case, I chose Java. All right. And then once it's been imported, I can go in and open it up in the IDE. And as you can see, all of those files, in this case, it was quite a few, 7 files, are already there. And whatever code that was found in them is also available there as well. Okay. And so now I can run the program. Let's make sure the file's good. I can go ahead and run that program, and it works as expected. Okay. And so while we're thinking about Java and thinking about programs with multiple files. And you may have noticed this kind of during the demo, but I didn't necessarily highlight it yet. We also added a new way to navigate the files in the code tree. Okay, and if you look up here above the actual code, you'll see that there's now tabs which indicate the files that you're kind of looking at or that you have open. Okay, and this is really nice for programs that are multiple files because what you can do now is you can actually close the file tab, the left side, and you can then still navigate to the files that you care about using this file bar tab. Okay, and this is really great, as I'm saying, especially with Java, because it's often that you find yourself having to edit multiple files, and Java can things can get kind of longer in terms of line length. And so screen real estate is really important. So hopefully this helps both you and your students out when you're working on bigger programs with a lot of files. Okay. Great. So what we showed there is the zip import, which is available for more than just Java, but I did demonstrate it with Java because it was a multi-file program. And then also, as we're seeing here, is the file bar. Okay. So what we're going to look at next is something related to HTML and CSS. So if that is something that you've been teaching or are going to teach, then hopefully this is particularly interesting for you. Yeah, if there's any questions, I can help with those. Okay, let us continue. So how we're gonna do the next demo is what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to navigate to an activity from the perspective of a teacher viewing a student's assignment. Okay, so in this particular case, I have a section called web programming. Okay, so we're viewing this course and I'm viewing it as the teacher viewing one of my students. And in this case, we have Sar here as one of my students. Okay, so I'm viewing his course page. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate in and take a look at one of his programs. So we'll take a look at this one. Should be, well, we'll do this one, I think. So we can take a look at SARS, and immediately you might notice that the way the HTML program is being displayed is a bit different. Okay, and so now by default on CodeHS, HTML-based programs will use a kind of more familiar URL bar to display the results of the HTML program. So as you can see up here, you can actually see what file we are viewing, similar to how you would see this in a normal browser in a URL bar found in a browser. And as you can see as well, it also supports all of the various features that you might expect from a normal web browser, like forward and backwards navigation. So what I can do here, I'm going to go ahead. Let's simplify this program just a little bit. And I'm also going to make a new file, other.html file, and then hello. Save that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a link from this particular page to that new page. HTML. Click me. Great. And so now we have this. And as you can see, I've made a change. and I can go ahead and click on this link, which I added to the index.html, and this will link me over to the other page. All right. And so we're seeing that particular page now. And as you can see, this back button here is now something that I can click. And that's because this URL bar is intended to work very similar to how a student expects their normal web browser to work. And so they can go ahead and click back and go back to the previous page. Okay. And so the reason why this is really important, if it's not already clear, is that this is going to make our HTML and CSS curriculum and courses feel a bit more real to students. And they'll be able to connect kind of what they're making, right? What they're making to how things are actually working, right, in the real world, right? And so that's kind of one of the big reasons why we wanted to improve this here, so that this connection could be made. Okay. And so, great. One other thing that I demoed here that you may not have fully noticed, but if you're an HTML CSS teacher, you maybe definitely noticed, is that I just made those changes to SAR's program as the teacher. Okay, so I am logged in as John Kelly, the teacher account, and I'm viewing one of my students' programs. Okay, and I was able to make adjustments to their HTML program just by viewing their assignment. Okay, and so this is something that is going to be made available for all programming languages and all activity types on the site. But I wanted to make sure to demo it for HTML and CSS because this was something that was a little tricky in the past, where if you just wanted to try to change one little thing on your student's HTML program, it wouldn't display in the right way a lot of the time. Okay, and so a lot of those issues are completely resolved by this. Okay, and so to communicate this a little bit more clearly, okay, so as you can see up here, it says this code has diverged from the student's work. Okay, this code has diverged from the student's work. So as I said, I am a teacher viewing my student's program, all right, and I have made an edit to their program, okay? And if I refresh this page, that edit will still be there, okay? That edit will still be there. However, it's only something that I see, I, the teacher, see, okay? However, it is possible, if you wanted, to push the changes that you've made to your student's program, okay? It is possible to push the changes that you've made to your student's program, and on their end, they'll actually see that their teacher made an adjustment to their program. They'll get a little notification, and in the history, it'll appear slightly differently, okay? So in order to do that, if you just click this push button, and it says, are you sure you want to push? This will overwrite any changes that SAR has made. But that's okay. I think this is what we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and push that. All right. And now, if SAR were to load, STAR the student were to load this program, things would reflect the changes that I made to that program, I, the teacher. And so this can be nice in situations where the student just has like a tiny little typo and you don't want to have to talk to them about it in class or send them a message that they might not see. You can just make a little adjustment, and then you could even leave a comment in their program and say, hey, I changed this little typo for you. Yeah, try a little harder next time, or try to catch that typo before you submit it. Okay, and so this is now available, and this is actually the default behavior going forward for all teachers viewing their students' work. Okay, I think there's a question. Not going to fix my, yeah, maybe you don't want to fix your students' typos, but maybe, you know, maybe maybe. Great. So that is all that I wanted to demo for sure. But if people had questions or follow-ups to anything that we saw today, we have a little bit of time to take a closer look at anything that you saw. or answer any of those questions. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone who came to the webinar. This was fun, and it's been really fun working on all these things for everyone. So
we appreciate all your questions and all of your feedback, and let us know too if there are any additional features, in the future that you'd like to see. We always want to hear from teachers. hello@codehs.com would be a great place to write in. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.